Hello and welcome to lesson 4 of your geometry video series. Today we're going to talk about perpendicular lines. So yesterday you learned about parallel lines, and creating equations for perpendicular lines is very similar. So that's what we're going to do. One of the things that you need to remember before we even start this is that you now know two forms for the equation of a line. You know the form y equals mx plus b, which you can use when you know the slope and the y-intercept of the line you're trying to create. And you also know y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, which is point slope form. And that's when you have any point on the line and the slope you want. And you negate that point to create the equation. All right, so let's do this. It says segment PR connects 5, 2, and 3, 6. Graph AB that passes through negative 2, 5, and negative 6, 3. So negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then negative 6, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. And so this is line AB. And then it says find the slopes of PR and AB. Okay, I can do that. And since I have a picture, I'm going to do it with the picture. So PR goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 2. So PR is up 4, left 2, which makes my slope negative 2. And then AB is up 2, right 1, 2, 3, 4. Is up to right 4, which is 1/2. And these are the slopes of each of those. What do I notice about the slope? Well, negative 2 and 1/2 are what we called a couple of days ago that they are opposite reciprocals. Okay, opposite reciprocals. They have an opposite sign and they flip upside down because negative 2 is negative 2 over 1. So I drop the negative, flip it, positive 1/2. So what do you say about the relationship between the segment and a line? Well, again, a couple days ago, we had said that parallel lines have equal slopes and perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. And that's what we have here. So they are perpendicular. And there's a symbol for that. We would say that line AB is perpendicular to segment or line PR. And that upside down T means perpendicular. So just a reminder, slopes of perpendicular lines, you have to know this, are opposite reciprocals. Oops, forgot to know. Opposite reciprocals, okay? There we go. All right, so now we're going to plot CD and calculate the slope, and then graph any perpendicular line that passes through CD and calculate its slope. Explain the significance. Okay, so I'm reading all of it first, and I'm thinking, well, they want me to plot a line, then they want me to make a perpendicular line. The only way we know how to create a perpendicular line is to find the first slope, find its opposite reciprocal, and then just make another one. So that's what we're going to do. So I am going to plot negative 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, negative 3, 1, 2, 3. There's C. Make sure you label your points. And negative 2, negative 3, D. Okay. Calculate the slope. Well, that's a horizontal line. And so the slope of a horizontal line is always 0. Uh-oh. How do I take the opposite reciprocal of 0? This is the one and only exception. Now, you're probably thinking, well, they just want me to make a perpendicular line. Remember, can't I just make a perpendicular line by saying that one goes sideways, so the perpendicular one goes vertical? Yes, you can. So if I wanted to create a perpendicular line, this red one would be perfectly perpendicular. So graph any perpendicular line. I did, and calculate its slope. The slope of a vertical line is undefined. Okay, So we have one exception to the rule. Slopes of perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals, except it's always true that horizontal and vertical lines are perpendicular, even though 0 and undefined aren't opposite reciprocals. Now, if you want to write that whole thing out, you can. You don't have to. All you really need to write down is that it's always true that horizontal and verticals are perpendicular. But the reason that's an exception is horizontal and verticals don't have slopes that are technically opposite reciprocals. Okay, so 99.9% of the time, if you have perpendicular lines, their slopes are opposite reciprocals. That 0.1% of the time is when you have horizontal and vertical lines that are still perpendicular. All right. Next, write the perpendicular slope to each of the slopes. Perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals. We've talked about that a couple days ago. So I want you to try this right now on your own. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to write in the answers. And then when I unpause it, the answers will show up. So I want you to pause it. Take 90 seconds to jot down the opposite reciprocals for each of these, and then check yours against mine. So, okay, so here are the answers I came up with. 1/2 becomes -2/1. 2/3 becomes -3/2. -9/4, we drop the negative, becomes 4/9. 5, which is 5/1, becomes -1/5. Now when I have letters, I don't care. Negative reciprocal just means negate it and flip it upside down. So A/B becomes -B/A. -1, which is -1/1, becomes +1/1. And then undefined and 0 are our exceptions for those perpendiculars there. All right. Then it says, given the following pairs of equations, determine if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. It's still based on slope. So whether I do slope between 2 points or slope of a line in its given form, I always need to identify the slope. So that's what we're going to do. So when I look here, these are both in y = mx + b, or slope-intercept form. My slope is the number in front of x, 2 versus 1/2. They're reciprocals, but they're not opposite reciprocals. So these would be neither parallel nor perpendicular. Because they're reciprocals, but not opposite reciprocals. All right, y = -3x + 1, y + 3x = 8. I really should get these both in y = form so I can identify the slope. So I'm going to subtract 3x and say y = 8 - 3x. Okay, so my slope is the number in front of x, which is -3, and -3 again. Parallel lines have equal slopes. These are parallel. Oh, darn it. Neither of these are in y = form. So if you want to figure out the slope here, I got to get them both in y = form. So I'm going to take this guy, 5x + 3y = 2, subtract 5x. 3y = 2 - 5x. Divide everybody by 3 and get y = 2/3 - 5/3 x. Okay, so there's my first slope, -5/3 x. And then the next one, I'm going to put it over here, 9x - 15y = 1, subtract 9x, -15y = 1 - 9x, divide everything by -15, and I get y = -1/15. A negative divided by a negative will be a positive. 9/15 is 3/5. So I have -5/3 and +3/5. These two are perpendicular. And then last but not least, x = 2. When you have x = a number, that's a vertical line. Y = 3 is a horizontal line. Horizontals and verticals are perpendicular. Okay. Now it says explain your answer. If I was writing this out for something that I had to hand in or you had to hand in to me, I would write out what I was just saying out loud. But those are perpendicular because they're horizontal and perpendicular. Horizontal and perpendicular. Horizontal and vertical. These are perpendicular because their slopes are opposite reciprocals. Okay. We're saying it, we're just not writing it. 3, graph the equation y equals 4x minus 2. Graph and write an equation of a line perpendicular to the given line having the same y-intercept. I'm going to do it in an opposite order because I can, and nobody's here to stop me. Instead of graphing it first, I'm just going to do the algebra on this one. I have this line. I want to write the equation of another line that's perpendicular to it. Okay, well, my current slope is 4. My perpendicular slope to 4 would be the opposite reciprocal. So 4 over 1 becomes negative 1 over 4. And I want it to have the same y-intercept. I have that too. It's negative 2. So now I want to write the equation of a line that has this new slope, but the old y-intercept. So y equals negative 1/4 x minus 2. Okay, and now I'm going to graph them both. I can do that. Make this a little bit bigger. So 4x minus 2, so there's negative 2, up 4, right 1, up 4, right 1. Always label your lines. 4x minus 2. And then my new one is negative 1/4 x minus 2. So I'm going to start at negative 2 again and go down 1, right 4, down 1, up, don't have enough room there, up 1, left 4. Draw that one in. Always label your lines. Ta-da! And I think that's it for the notes. Let me check. Oh, there's one more example. I don't want to talk that much. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to try to do this without me. Pause the video. I'm going to do it and then check back. Got it? Good. I'm back. So the first thing it asked you to do was plot 2 points and find the slope in the midpoint. So I did that. I found the slope using the slope formula, got negative 1. I found the midpoint using the midpoint formula and got negative 1, 0. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is slope. Midpoint is add the x's divide by 2, add the y's divide by 2, or you could count it, and I showed that on the grid too. Either or, totally fine with me. So I got my slope, I got my midpoint. Then it says, graph and write the equation of the line that's perpendicular to the given segment and goes through the midpoint. So if I want the equation of the line, I need its slope. So if my original slope was negative 1, then my perpendicular slope is positive 1. And if it needs to go through the midpoint, it needs to go through negative 1, 0. So then I look at these conditions and say, I need to write the equation of this. So if I have to write the equation of this, I can do one of two things. 1, try graphing it and see if I can figure out the y-intercept. Or 2, use point slope form. I'm going to use point slope form and then I'll graph it. So if I have a slope of 1 and it goes through negative 1, 0, again, that point slope form is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So it would be y minus 0 equals 1 x plus 1, because remember, you negate and kind of reverse the order of the point when you write the equation of the line. So y minus 0 equals 1 x plus 1. You can totally leave it like that. That's fine. You could also say, you know what? I know where this is. Let me graph it. I'm sorry for the music that's now blasting. I'm just going to deal with it. So I'm going to go up 1 over 1 and draw the line like that and realize that my y-intercept is 1. So this would be y equals 1x plus 1. All right. I will talk to all of you again soon. Stupid joke of the day today is going to be, what do you call a flock of detective geese? Sherlock Holmes. It's terrible. Really bad pun. I apologize, but not that much. Have a great day, everybody.